Hi everyone, it's Kelly from the Hub. I am here today with Angela. Remember we talked with her last week. She runs the Domestic Violence Services program from CAP. She's part of Community Outreach and Volunteer Programming, and we love her because she teaches us all these things. Hello there.
Hi, good morning. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much. It's very good to see you. So in our series that we're talking about domestic violence, today's topic is it domestic violence? So it's sort of that interesting thing, like, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, is it a duck? So we're going to see, this is like types, tactics, and red flags. So I'm super interested about this topic just because I want to know, are things that like some of my friends are going through or I've gone through, is that really domestic violence? Is it not? So here we go. Start it up. Tell us some stuff.
Well, I want to affirm like that questioning, like that intuitive feeling or not being sure, because that's a lot of what we hear from people, from the victims we work with. A lot, if you think about relationships on a spectrum, there's the healthy end. Like we can all really identify that, right?
Yeah.
Two people who respect one another, they share their time and their space. They speak respectfully to one another in a loving, caring way. Like we can look at a relationship and say, oh, wow, they look really great together. They love each other, right? And then you know the neighbors who are always fighting and screaming at one another. Maybe they're screaming at their kids and they're always unhappy, and you never really see them interacting in a way together that would make you think that they love one another.
Right.
We can kind of look at that end of things and say, okay, that's not a healthy relationship, right?
Right. It's all the stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
You're right, because we've all said unkind words
Absolutely.
to a person that we share a living quarters with. We've all said unkind words.
Absolutely.
But is that domestic violence?
Right.
Yeah, you're right. It's literally all that stuff in the middle. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I do the community outreach, right? So I'm out talking with people, tabling events, trainings, all of that. And I always have somebody come up and they'll say, this is what's going on in my relationship, or I know somebody who, is that domestic violence? Well, if somebody feels unsafe in their relationship, I would say that's domestic violence. Like literally, this person is not safe for me. This person does not have my best interest in mind. This person is controlling me. I would say that control is one of those, is a big red flag, right? And so control can take on many forms. It could be setting parameters or time limits for somebody when they're at work or to get home from work, or, like you clock out at 5 o'clock. I know how long it takes for you to get home. Why weren't you home in the 20 minutes that it takes you to get home? That's a really, concrete way of looking at control. It can look very subtle and even kind of romantic. And so I use this example, especially when I'm talking with teens. So, we all know that new relationship feeling. You're getting to know somebody, you're spending time together, you're very attentive with one another, typically, right? Checking in. Hey, how's your day going? Have a great day. How was your day? Tell me, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so it feels really good because we're getting that attention, we're probably reciprocating. And then it starts to turn into, oh, do you really have to go with your friends tonight? I miss you. I had a rough day. I just want to spend the evening together. Can't you cancel your plans with your friends? I really, really want to spend the day together. I want to be with you. So they start to want to dominate the person's time. So, but it still sounds really romantic, right? Like, oh, he had a bad day and they want to spend they want me. I'm the person who can make them feel better, right? So it feels kind of romantic.
So it would be control if you had plans with somebody else, like you had other plans, and they want you to cancel your plans with them. It's
Right.
not if you didn't have plans and they
Right.
just are saying, come home, I need you, let's have movie night. Like that's just
Right.
regular. It's
Right.
it's to change what you're already doing to fit that other person's needs.
Right. And then
Okay.
it can
Okay.
go even further. So then it's, they're blowing up their phone. It's a lot of, they send you a text message. Like for me, if somebody sent me a message in the middle of the day, I'm probably going to be in a meeting. I
Right.
can't respond to you immediately.
Right.
But the other person then gets agitated because they're not getting an immediate response. And so then they start blowing up your phone. Where are you? Why aren't you responding to me? Who are you talking to? Like, and so they start to exert some of that emotional control. And it's like, dude, hold on. I'm in the middle of something. I have a life, or I have work too, or I have a class, whatever the situation might be. And then they start to take it a little further. I really don't like that friend of yours. They just really rubbed me the wrong way, or they made a rude comment to me. I don't want you to spend time with that person. So they start to move the bar, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Domestic violence typically doesn't just drop in your lap and happen. And that's what's confusing for people, why they can't quite answer that question. Is this domestic violence? Because it happens incrementally, usually over time. And then once you get to the physical abuse, sometimes that might be a little more hardcore. But up until that point, there's probably been signs of emotional or mental or verbal abuse that have led up to that. It's not typical that somebody's going to haul off and hit somebody on the first date. Because if that happened, most of us would leave, would
Right.
not see that person again.
Right. But okay, so I guess, oh my God, so much.
Right.
Right, because the more you talk about it and the more I learn, the more things I want to ask you about.
Right.
So is it trauma that makes that person, like trauma in their lives that makes that person do that? I know we might be talking about that at a whole other time, but like are they because you said like it's sort of it's going to be gradual. So does that mean that like that person is intentional? Does that person know that they're doing it when they're blowing up your phone, let's say, which can feel just sort of like they really need you if you're not thinking about that, rather than feel like they're being, overbearing. So like, does that person who's doing it consciously know that?
I think that there's research out there that you can look at why people abuse other people. And it's not clear cut. Like, it's not like if you were a child growing up in an abusive household that you're going to grow up to be an abuser,
Right.
or that you're going to grow up to be a victim. Like, there's no clear cut, which is kind of confusing for me, honestly, as like somebody who looks at human development and knows that we are products of our environment, or
Right.
at least that's what I believe.
Yeah.
But there's also
nurture. Yeah.
there's also resiliency and other trauma impacts that are there too. I think it's a sense of entitlement. I think that person feels like they are entitled to whatever they want whenever they want it, and that they're going to walk all over people's boundaries, and that this is mostly who they are. Like, and we see abusers who put on a public face and a public appearance, and people are shocked when they hear what goes on behind closed doors.
Right.
But that's also part of the control. They know when to turn on that charm, and they know when to kind of let the monster loose, when it's safe to put that outward facade away.
Right.
So there's control there. I think it's an entitlement thing. They believe that that their partner, the victim, is theirs, and that they should have full access to them whenever they want it. And even so, boundaries are really challenging when in an abusive relationship, because the victim is trying to, even just like trying to establish that work boundary or who I am outside of this relationship. Can often, they don't want that. They want the first identity or first priority for their victim is them as the abuser.
So can you also talk, like, a friend of mine, for her, it's about some financial control. So it's not, I mean, it is part of their relationship, but she's also like, not that good with money. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if she has $50 in her wallet, she's going to spend 75.
Right.
Because shoes are cute and whatever, whatever the thing is, not her fault. There's no blame here.
Yeah.
She's not so good with money. So it happens to be he takes control.
Yeah.
How does it become like when does it sort of shift into that's really not cool?
Right. When does it shift into an abusive tactic?
Yeah. So
there are, your viewers may have heard of or seen the power and control wheel. And it's a wheel it actually looks like a wheel with spokes. And there's different tactics that abusers use. Gender stereotypes are often part of it. And being, if it's a male-female relationship, the dominant male in the relationship, and putting her down because she's a woman, or implying that she's weak because she's a woman. That's a tactic that they can use. Financial control is one of the tactics that they use. So it can be controlling the finances. I would say the line for abuse there would be is if he refuses her access to the accounts. Like, she wants to look at the accounts and see what's in the accounts, what are the balances, how is the money being spent. If she asks those questions and the answer is no, you don't need to know that, that's sending up a red flag for me.
Okay.
If it's, if they both agree that she works better with a weekly allowance because like you said, she doesn't do well with managing her money, but they agree that, she gets $100 a week to spend however she wants, and he's not going to question it. He's not going to make her turn in receipts for how she's spending that $100.
Yeah.
I would say that that's probably, and if they're both agreeing to that,
so like
that's probably okay. Because they both recognize that she needs an allowance.
Right. Like, people on the outside could see that and go, well, that's a little control.
Right.
She really might need that structure in order to not, to get out of debt or to be more financially stable or, whatever the biz is. Okay. All right. I get that line. Okay. So it's about if she asks or says, well, how are we doing in savings? And he says, if we're just using that example, and he says, oh, I'm not showing you. That could be a moment where you're thoughtful about it.
Yes. Like, why, that's my money too. Right. Why can't I see what's going on? Like, why, there's a difference between, maybe one of the partners who takes the lead on, the budget or the household management in that regard. But it's the lead, right? Like, they're just better with numbers or better organized to make sure that the bills get paid on time. But the other partner still has full access to look at the accounts and to be a part of that, and make those decisions together. It's when one person starts to deny access and say, no, this is none of your business, and then starts to put the other person down for it. So if you're in your friend's situation, if her partner was saying, you're no good with money, and starts to really like use negative language, verbal abuse, putting her down because, she can't manage her checkbook or, whatever. So then it starts to get tied up into some verbal and emotional abuse, right?
Yeah.
So it's not usually just one tactic that they use. There's usually this web of tactics that are used.
Because they're trying to have control.
Yes.
All right.
And so often what happens then in situations like that is that the victim's self-esteem gets broken. When you hear negative messages enough, when love is withheld from you, when somebody who's supposed to love you makes you believe that you're not good enough in some way, that's going to start to tear on your self-esteem. And I think that's the first, like, that is a red flag. If somebody is just, if they are internalizing the messages that their abusive partner is expressing to them, and you can see that on the outside, especially, you as a friend can see that she is just not the same as she used to be. You know, she doesn't have that confidence that she once had. You know, she's not as outgoing as she used to be. Like, when you can start to see that from the outside, especially,
Yeah.
that would probably be a time where I would start to have a conversation with her or
I
him.
want to ask one other like classic, well, I don't know, I guess I consider it a classic thing. It's okay. So, and I'm gonna just stereotype it, but you tell me if this is like a thing that like shows up. For me, one of those classic things is like women and their weight.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be men in their weight too. I don't know.
Yes.
A lot of times it shows up as women in their weight, and their partner says, "Oh, you know, things that might be considered teasing. Oh, you're putting on a few pounds, honey. Oh, looks like we had too much holiday food. Oh, that's a big whatever part of your body you have." So those kinds of things. Okay. This is a lot of baggage, you know, because a lot of women have body stuff. We do,
Yes.
because we just do.
Yes.
Whatever the reasons are, it like exists. And you've sort of said some of this before, but I just want it because I know that there's a lot of women out there who are like, you know, that's how I feel. So when does it go from, oh, look at your big, to now it's, I mean, is it control, like, oh, you can't have cupcakes anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Or, but then is that helping you? Like,
So it's
like it's more than just like,
criticism.
let's go on keto together, honey. It's,
Right.
this is, how does that work? Like, how does that women and weight issue work when it starts becoming the ugly part?
Right. So I would say, like, the easiest way to figure that out is if this person is making those comments, if the abusive person is making those comments in front of other people, that isn't cool. Like, that potentially is walking the line of abuse. I would want to know maybe some other things going on in the relationship, and that would be a red flag for me. That would kind of get my spidey senses going, and I would probably start looking at some other ways that they're interacting, or, you know, maybe asking, just paying attention a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because you don't make those, if you love somebody, why would you make a comment like that in front of other people?
Right. Right.
That's not a loving, supportive partner. That's somebody who's trying to publicly criticize you or make you feel bad in front of other people. That's not love. If they are, like you said, let's do this together.
Yeah.
Then I might say, okay, that might be a gray area for me, because then it would depend on the follow-up. Like, how much pressure are they putting on them then to follow the plan? Are they ridiculing them? Are they criticizing them? Are they putting them down if they can't follow the plan, or if they have one of those days where they eat tons of carbs? You know, like, or do they just accept, you know, we all fall off the wagon every now and then, and we're going to get back on it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So how do they handle that? Are they going to put them down and call them names and tell them they're a failure? And, you know, and then they turn it around and make it all about them. I'm doing this because of you. I'm not the one who needs to lose the weight. You're the one that needs to lose the weight. I'm doing this for you because I want to be supportive and I want us to look great and feel great when we're out together. Right?
Yeah.
So when they turn it around, then that's a red flag for me. And those are the conversations that we're not likely to hear. Those are the things that usually happen behind closed doors.
Right. Like,
And
I
so,
want you to look good. Like, I can hear I want you to look good for my clients.
right.
So, and that, oh God, I want to unpack this for days and days and days. There's so many things here. All right.
Yeah.
This has been really helpful. This has been really helpful because today we've talked about like ways that, like, some red flags where the abuser can like control the relationship, like help, like making you change plans and doing that kind of stuff. Some financial stuff about when it crosses the line and becomes inappropriate, and also like the classic like women weight playing into your low self-esteem issues that a lot of women have. This has been helpful. This is going to help. This has been really helpful. Oh, Angela, we could do this for days. Well, we are.
We will.
We will. We have lots of questions. Okay, excellent. Next week, I'm just going to look over here for our topic next week. Ooh, next week is how dangerous is domestic violence?
That's a good one. We'll talk about lethality and lethality assessment and the steps that we're taking as a community to prevent those domestic violence homicides from happening. So
this is so valuable. Thank you times a million. This is wonderful.
Great.
See you next week.
Good to be here. See you next week.
Bye.